Hello and welcome to GEOSCOPE on Labour Social with me and Ollie Bowler Hatman up there being hello. How you doing, mate? You all right?
I'm all right. I've got my spooky background because it is the the spooky season. So
It is the season to be spooky, I hear. So hello to everyone out there. Make sure you can hear us. If you can't hear us, let us know because that would be a bad thing. I don't actually know if this is going out, to be honest with you, because I've got no stream settings. So I'm just assuming there's someone else apart from Tim out there. He said evening flaps, which is good. So if we are actually going out, which I do hope we are.
We are live. I can see us on.
Yes.
I can see us on YouTube.
Yes, I can see us. We're there. Right. What are you going to talk about tonight, Ollie?
Oh my! Three very interesting topics this evening. We're going to talk about the ongoing political crisis in the Republican Party and their possibility of unelecting a speaker that is unfolding as we speak
In America.
Jim Jordan has just lost the first vote for speaker.
20 of his comrades didn't vote for him.
Yep. Like I say, we'll be talking about probably why they won't be voting for him as well. The Polish elections that happened as very well. I've already done a video about this as well.
And the goodies won. The goodies won.
He's won. He's just won.
That's brilliant. That's amazing. That doesn't normally happen. I'm not used to that. The baddies won in New Zealand. And also the baddies won in Australia as well. Not good. Not good at all. And what was the other thing?
Finally, actually, we'll start off. We'll start off with this story.
Haven't you got a crazy story about some hackers from South Korea, North Korea or something?
We're talking crypto.
Oh God, no! We're not talking crypto. I hate crypto.
Starts with crypto.
You crypto fascist, you. Stop saying you crypto fascist. You make us sound really stupid. Go on. Tell us about these hackers.
How does this all start? Well, there was, shall we say, an incredibly popular crypto game in the Philippines called Axie Infinity.
Right.
And this was Pokemon, except you bought your own unique original Pokemon with your crypto money.
Oh, for God's sake. So it was NFTs. It was Pokemon NFTs.
Yeah. Combining the worst of two things together into something that's not.
What do you mean the worst? What's bad about Pokemon? Pokemon's awesome. Anyone out there wants to trade Pokemon with me? Let me know.
So you go through this, and the idea is that you fight with your monster to earn these potions. Once you've earned these potions, you can then level up your monster. It gets stronger, etc., etc. And this was incredibly popular in the Philippines, like incredibly popular. This was sweeping the Philippines to a untold extent. I think it was 1 in 4 people had this on their phones. That's how popular this was. It was dominating. People spending thousands of dollars. Oh, can't beat the classics.
You keep talking. I'm gonna play Pokemon while you're talking. This is great.
They were spending thousands of dollars on this crypto game. And then, of course, as most crypto scams go,
crypto fascists.
Well, what happened was...
Are you trying to tell us that crypto is a scam?
Oh, well. More of a pyramid scheme.
Oh no.
But essentially this got hacked, and billions were lost.
Oh Jesus.
I think the grand total was something like $60 million.
Million or billion?
Billion.
Billion with a B. $16 billion.
Yeah.
Was robbed using Pokemon NFTs. Or Pokemon ripoff, so it's going to be like Digimon.
Yeah, pretty much.
Digimon. And what even is that?
The US...
And what was this money spent on? Was it spent on nice things? Like, did they buy everyone flowers? Did they buy everyone's mums flowers?
No, it was just invisible, not real things. That's what it was all spent on. And this was
No, I
it.
mean the money that they stole that was
Oh yeah,
spent
the money that they stole was
buying nice
all
things
these
for their
made up
mothers.
things, and people put thousands into this game because you can also store money on the
Oh,
platform as well.
sweet
So it
Jesus.
wasn't just like you were spending the money; it was you were buying like the currency that the game was using. It was going into their vaults.
Yeah.
What happens? All this gets hacked. This has left thousands of the people in the Philippines. If you look this up, there's one interview from an interviewer who's talking with a family. They're having to move to Dubai and
Oh
leave their
dear.
children with their family in the Philippines so that they can go to Dubai to work off their debt.
Oh.
Like that's how
Oh
much
dear.
this has ruined people's lives.
Jesus Christ.
But the bizarre
Oh mate,
twist,
you're not pulling me over on this whole crypto thing. I still think it's a scam.
the bizarre twist comes when this was all discovered by the US because the US got involved in this because there's a heck of a lot of money stolen. This was quite destabilizing for their economy. They tracked the hackers to North
Right.
Korea
Right.
and they suspect that this money has gone into nuclear development.
What? Nuclear development.
Yeah.
So
Um,
so so it was hackers. Sorry. So this was the game genuine. I mean, like, if it hadn't been hacked, would it have been a scam, or
no,
was it a scam that
it was
got
this
hacked?
genuine game that someone had
But
created.
it was based on
And
NFTs, and NFTs are
yeah,
worthless now. I heard that 95% of them are literally of
yep.
zero value.
Um, there's a brilliant book coming out called Line Go Up. I
Yes,
definitely recommend it.
line go up. I was
Um,
watching a video about that on YouTube. The guy being interviewed
yes,
about it.
Adam. Oh, what's his name now? He does. Adam knows everything. What's his name now? Adam something.
It is Adam
Yeah,
something, but
that's it.
that's
He interviewed the author, and he
yeah.
talked about this.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought you were trying to think of the author's name. The author had a funny name. It was like it was a funny spelling of a normal word.
Mm,
I'll have to remember. Someone look up "Line Go Up" and who wrote it. I
yeah,
believe he was a journalist for a New York period, an American periodical
yeah,
or newspaper, and essentially he thought that crypto was just a load of bollocks. And he ended up going to this conference, right, for crypto. This is back in 2021 when crypto was still like huge. And he was talking to someone who was like, "Yeah, well, here's the plan. So I'm going to set up a bank, crypto bank, and then people are going to give me the money, right? And then I'm going to give them an 18% ROI. So 18% interest on the money if they give it to me, right, for safekeeping. And if someone wants to take a loan, I'm not going to charge them any interest." And this
yeah.
guy is like, this
Because that
financial,
sounds really,
yes,
really great.
financial journalist, like, okay, that's not a way to make money. That is literally, there's no way to make money out of that model. And he went, "Oh, well, I've already managed to fund $20 billion to get this going."
Yeah.
And I'm just like, how? What? How the, what? Absolutely bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. Dan Olson. I don't think it's Dan Olson. Maybe it is. Maybe it's Dan Olson. I didn't think it was. I thought it
Maybe.
was.
I know he's done 2 very good videos on crypto and NFTs. So if you want to see the downfall and why they're so bad, Folding Ideas, I believe his channel's called.
I do like Adam something. I'd really recommend his channel. I think quite a few people who watch our stuff watch Adam something as well.
So that's the fun story, as I say, how cryptocurrency ended up funding nuclear development in North Korea. I'm sure that's not going to have any repercussions further down this show line. It probably will. But yes, I think we'll move on to the Polish elections because I think, because we were talking about this as well in the chat, this has been a good victory. This has been a very good victory for Poland. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
Poland, when
Very good for Europe. Very good
oh
for
yeah,
the world, actually.
yeah, Poland, when it's talked about as this being this post-communist country
Yeah.
that has become like the shining example of this is how you should have your economy, this is how you should have your democracy set up. So it has become very, very much the poster boy for a lot of like other Eastern European countries to follow. So
Yeah.
it becomes very interesting when you've had this the part justice is it the Peace and Justice Party
Piss.
yep,
They pronounce it peace, but I like to call it the piss party because it's spelled PIS. or the Piz Party.
Yeah.
So they're basically a bunch of fascists,
Yep.
slightly to the right of the Tories in the UK, and they've enacted a lot of horrible laws, especially against LGBT uh,
Yep. Abortion bans as well.
people, and yeah, abortion bans, and they've just generally acted like the American MAGA Republicans
Yep.
for the last few years. They thought that they were going to coast to victory in this election. There were a lot of talk about Europe moving to the right,
Yep.
and yeah, apparently a shitload of 18 to 29-year-olds got out off their asses and actually bothered voting, and it was the biggest turnout since
Yep.
they first got democracy back in the early 90s.
Yeah. So I think that just goes to show you how much not only turnout is to
Yeah,
elections, but getting people out to vote
yeah.
is always the winner. That's something that we've got to do. I think when it comes to our general election, how do we?
Oh God, we've got to get the
get
young
out?
people out. Only 1% of young people intend to vote Tory. We have to get them out to vote. We need to give them incentives. We need to get them out. How do you get like millennials and Gen Z? How do you get them out the house? Do you
Oh,
leave a trail of Pokemon cards? What do you do? I don't know. There's a way of doing it. We need to think about it.
let's not do the cringy Hillary Clinton. Let's Pokemon go to the polls.
Did she say that? Oh my
Yes.
God, no wonder she lost. So Christine Cash says Zeke Foe is the person who wrote the book Number Go Up. It's not look at line go up, it's Number Go Up. Line Go Up is a podcast person. So it's slightly different. But yeah, he's the guy I was talking about, and I saw an interview with him, and it just looked like absolutely, it made me want to read the book. It definitely made me. But it's one of those where I'd be like, I thought that these were wrong and from the start. Do you know what I mean? So obviously,
Yeah.
there's feeling very smug. Smug.
Well, it gets even weird because you might have heard about what's been going on in Ukraine. I think we all know what's going on in Ukraine. But one of the things that was happened because of consequence of Ukraine is that
Yeah.
Ukrainian grain pretty much bottled up in Ukraine, and the Ukrainians couldn't sell it because the most effective way to get grain out of the country was by sea. Obviously, they've been having problems with that. So this has led to Polish farmers raking it in big time.
Yeah.
And they really wanted to get that rural vote. They wanted those farmers. So they have been threatening to stop all weapon shipments to Ukraine, which, if you've been following this conflict, then you know that like Poland is like chomping at the bit. Like it has generally seemed like Poland is like, put me in, coach, put me in, I'm ready to go. Give me the, just blow the whistle, let me go in. That's generally
I'll murderalize them.
Yeah,
it's like
how they've been coming
Scrappy
across.
Doo.
And not only that, but they've bought like an absolute ton of HIMARS system, and they've put them like across from the border of Kaliningrad. The Russian enclave that they have.
Exclave.
And
I don't know the difference between exclave and enclave. I've been to Kaliningrad. I've been there.
It's
spent the night there. It was very cold. I got frog marched out of it by the army. There you go. It's the last time I went to. Oh no, it wasn't the last time I went to Russia. I've been since then, but yeah.
So yeah, they are have been ready to go. So the fact that they've threatened this to stop these weapon shipments, highly unusual. But it all came down to the fact that they were going to an election and they wanted to use that as an excuse to try and drum up the rural vote to get farmers.
Do you think that massively backfired then?
Then yeah,
yeah,
I believe it has. I think a lot of people turned around and saw the fact that they were gone from we're really against Putin, we hate him, to sort of, well, we'll start rubbing elbows with you. And it kind of, I think, kind of seen as a weird move for a party that's been really pro-Ukrainian. Mostly because of the threat of Russia at that point.
The right wing tend to like conflict, don't they? They're a bit bloodthirsty. They go, oh yes, there's a war going on. How do we make money out of this? Like Milo Minderbinder and Catch-22. Just to say hello to Seraphine in the chat there, pointing out that put UK election on a Sunday, having them in the week as a joke. I couldn't agree more. Like in
2-day elections and a bank holiday. have the Friday be a bank holiday and then have it on a Saturday as well.
Why don't we have the elections at the weekend? It's just because the Tories have been in charge for over 66% of the time that the party's been in existence, and it's just not in their interest. They want to suppress the vote. The fewer people who vote, the better the Tories, the Republicans, Piz party, they do. And that's why any mobilization to get people out to vote, they say, "Oh no, we don't want that. It's anti-democratic somehow." Letting 16 and 17-year-olds vote, it's anti-democratic because they know they won't vote Conservative. That's the only reason they don't want them to vote.
Yep.
They're not old enough to have those decisions.
And I think I've said this before. I like to read Conservative Home. It's a very good comedy website for me. But
I'm so sorry.
It's a website where the writers for it, and particular Conservative MPs,
you read it, so we don't have to. Oh shit! Just
they write for it for like a Conservative audience. So they will say things on that website that they will never say in things like the Tory Graph, the Daily Mail. So it's a very good read, to say the least. And even they have been worrying about the fact that, because we haven't been building houses, but young people aren't voting for us. The traditional thing of once people had been, settled, eventually they would sort of turn Tory. Well, now that's not happening on a very large scale. It's something they've been warned about on that website for quite some time, and it's free because they are basically fulfilling their own prophecy on that. But yeah, that's for Friday. We'll talk about that on Friday.
So talking of Conservatives screwing themselves up. So we've seen this in Poland, but let's jump over the pond a moment. So earlier this evening or this afternoon in America, they had their first vote for the new Speaker of the House since they have backheeled McCarthy, who was the last guy, and he only got in after 15 votes. They've just had the first one, and Jim.
I wonder how many votes we're going to have.
Jim Jeffries, is it, or something? What's his name?
Jim Jeffries.
Jim Jeffries. He's got. He needs. He can only lose 4 votes. And
he pretty much needs all the Republican Party to vote for him.
Well, except for 4. He can get away with 4 people.
He can get away with 4,
but as long as they don't vote for the other side, which is unlikely.
162, I think he needs to succeed in the vote.
But he
needs 152
was
members to vote for him.
He had 20 people voting for other people. Who weren't even standing. Some of them voted for McCarthy, and he actually voted for Jeffries, which is a bit.
Doesn't surprise me.
Should we talk a little bit about Jim Jeffries, because he's?
I think it's also worth talking about how they got to this point. Before we get to that, because you've got to understand this party. Just as
Jim Johnson, is it Jim Johnson? What's his name? What's the guy's name? What?
Jim Jordan.
Jordan. Sorry.
Yeah.
God, I'm trying to look him up.
That type
yeah. Sorry, I was thinking of the Australian comedian, Jim Jordan. His name. Everyone's shouting Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan. Sorry.
So how did this all start? How did we get from a Republican Party who was somewhat semi-sane? People probably argue that otherwise. How did you get from a party that has gone this to a party that has gone absolutely lunatic fringe, where 30% of its support base would gladly vote in Donald Trump, even if he is a criminal?
Yes.
Like that is where the party is now.
Yes.
But it wasn't like this originally. You've got to track this roots back of this madness to the Tea Party.
Yes, in the 1980s. Was this the 1980s with Reagan?
No, this was very recent. This is the Tea Party.
Okay.
So we're talking when Obama came into power.
Oh, right. Were they all the birthers and that?
Yep. This is where that's part of the madness where this came from.
Jim Jordan.
So this came in.
Sorry, Darren.
This came in. So this came in.
Oh, sorry. Can we just rewind the tape? This is going out live. All my nightmares come at once. Anyway, go on. Tell us about the Tea Party.
But yeah, the Tea Party was an AstroTurf movement created by 2 of the biggest, at the time, Republican backers called the Koch brothers.
The Koch brothers, you mean?
Yeah.
Why are you being? That's like when people say Uranus instead of Uranus because they don't want to say Uranus because it's a really silly name for a planet. They're the Koch brothers. Is there still 2 of them, or have they lost one like the Barclay brothers?
One of them died.
Yes.
A couple of years
ago. Mean, what a shame. Oh, yeah. Be missed.
But they started this movement for one purpose alone. The Bush tax cuts for rich people were about to run out. So they started this AstroTurf movement to try and say, we rich people want our tax cuts back, but we're going to AstroTurf this low-level grounded movement from basic Americans that, somehow one day
Basic.
you might be at this wealth level and you might have to pay these taxes as well. Isn't this a shame? Um, and that's how it started. And then the crazies got involved, majorly so. Um, this is where you get what's her name now? Not Lauren Boebert.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
No, not even before. Oh, even before that. But she had to
Oh,
come out and say that she wasn't a witch.
sorry, the Alaska woman. What's her name? Who was
Oh,
on the
not not
ticket?
uh, not my, not Sarah Palin.
No, I am not
Oh,
a witch. What? Let's all type in "I am not a witch" and see what comes up. I am not a witch. There you go. It's a film from 2017.
I'm just trying to find it now. Who said it?
Was it a politician?
Yeah, it was a U.S. senator at the time.
Christine O'Donnell. Christine O'Donnell. No, she
Oh,
was
might
a
have
talk
been.
show host, wasn't she? Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's
Conservative.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, Christine O'Donnell. Her
yeah,
name
that's
is
it.
best known for a 2010 campaign in the U.S. Senate seat for Delaware, vacated by Joe Biden. Well, there you go. When he
Yep.
became
So
president.
she had claims on her that she was a witch, and she had to come out and say in a campaign speech she was not a witch. This is not
Oh my God.
a sane
Let's put
part
this.
of the party.
Let's put the Wikipedia link in the chat there.
This is not a sane part of this party. This is something that has infected the Republicans, and they have left it to infect them. And you've got a steadily trickle of more and more and more people that are just as insane. This is why you get Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is where you get um, Matt
Bobart.
Gomez. Um,
Bobart, who likes getting
oh, yeah,
felt up in Beetlejuice.
yeah, that was that was bizarre in itself.
If you say Lauren Boebert 5 times in the mirror, she appears behind you
Yeah,
with a
you'll,
mouthful of
you'll,
peas.
you'll feel a
Might be
touch
getting
on your
me.
knee.
Might be getting me 80s movies mixed up there, but yeah, something like that. It's Palin on OnlyFans, yes. It's only a matter of time. I think
Probably,
Bobert's probably more likely to be on OnlyFans.
probably.
Cox the KKK, they are mental. Yeah, Vendetta. I used to like a show by Penn and Teller, the Conjurists, called Bullshit, that used to be on Showtime. And after a few episodes, because the few episodes that were really good, and they were addressing things that like anti-vax and stuff like that. And then it became quite clear that every time they interviewed an expert about something, they were from the Koch Foundation,
Mm.
and I was a bit like, why are they getting all these people from this right wing think tank to talk about stuff? It's probably a charity as well, like the IEA. Is the IEA a charity? Policy research or whatever it's called. That's 55 Tufton Street. Yeah, if someone said I'm a witch, I would probably prefer. I would probably prefer to vote for them, says Pepper Marge. Jez Hunt says, sounds the kind of thing a witch would say. Well, there you
Yeah.
go. You see? Why would you
Maybe
deny
she
it?
was all along.
Only the true Messiah denies his divinity. All right, then I am the Messiah. But yeah, so it's all going to. Well, the thing is, right?
Oh, but we haven't even got to the best part yet.
Go on. Go on. Sorry.
So all this craziness literally comes to
Yes.
a head in the most recent House race, where the Republicans were expecting this massive red wave to take place. Like they were expecting to win an absolute ton of seats, and all these candidates were being backed by Trump.
Yeah.
So all these Trump appointees, all these Trump candidates were meant to sweep in there and do all kinds of, crazy, wonderful nonsense. However, that didn't happen. They only narrowly managed to hold on to the House, which has put them partly in this problem.
Yeah.
Because they have such a small majority in the House, the Speaker, or at least the guy who wanted to be the Speaker, a guy called Kevin McCartney, he was like, I want to be Speaker. I want to be Speaker. And this is where you get this guy who's been called by these guys a rhino, a Republican in name only. But this McCartney had a career with the Republicans going back over a decade. He'd voted Republican on pretty much everything.
Yeah.
But this is how insane the party has become. It's like you a perfect example is you've got Priti Patel and who was backing a Lord Carruthers, saying, "Oh, there aren't true conservatives in the Conservative Party, or so and so is not a true conservative."
Yeah. Yeah.
So this, so he was plastered by these guys as
Sino.
you are not
Conservative in
a
name only.
proper you're not a proper not a proper Republican. We don't want you. Like
Yeah.
we do not want you to be speaker because we want to do all these crazy things like impeach Biden.
Mm. But he did that, didn't
Well,
he?
this was it.
Or he tried
Because
to,
to
and it went
get
horribly wrong.
his to get in after 15 votes it took to get him in, he did a deal, and it was the worst deal I think anyone could have seen coming in history because
One person
yeah,
could object, and
he
the
allowed
he
that
get voted
one
out.
person to object, and it's just like, why on earth did you even agree to that?
Obviously, the only way
Only one person has
he
to
could become
object,
speaker.
and they hate him, so of course someone sooner or later is going to object to him.
Matt Gaetz, who
Yep.
is he? Tell me about Matt Gaetz. Is he wanted still for sex offences like sex trafficking across state lines or something?
Oh, is that no? Is that? Oh, I don't know now. Is that? I don't know if that's the right Republican. Or is that George? No, it's that George. Not that's no George Santos.
George Santos is wanted for being a massive liar and making stuff up, like his mother died
Yeah,
in
God.
9/11 when she actually died in 2016. That's the other guy. No, Matt Gaetz. He's I believe he's wanted for, or he's been questioned over some kind of nefarious, disgusting scheme to transport women across state lines. I'm just spot Matt Gaetz crimes. Oh, okay. Matt Gaetz says sex trafficking case against him closed without charges. There you go.
Yep.
He was the focus of a long-running investigation by the Justice Department. Yeah, the Justice Department has ended the sex trafficking case with no charges against him, so he got away with it. Helpful
I,
when you're rich,
I
isn't
like
it?
that David Farrow. So Owen Jones is a lino, Libra name only.
Yes. I don't even think he says he's Labour anymore. I think he's just like he says he's politically homeless. But you know, being being an agent provocateur is very profitable, so he's not actually homeless.
So this is where we get to this deal, and this deal has lasted not even a year.
Right.
Why has it not lasted a year? Well, this comes down to the fact that when the US passes a budget, it passes very differently to ours. Now, we could have our own fun and games on this budget as well, because I'm sure you've all seen Liz Truss put out her own alternative budget, written on the most holiest of lettuces. But that's another topic of conversation for another time. But in the US, the House of Representatives does get a lot of power to vote through a budget. Not as much. We have a lot more control over it, whereas the US have to do like it has to be voted on. So they did a deal, or at least McCartney did a deal with the Democrats to allow the government to continue to be funded, to allow the government to continue run. Otherwise, you would have had thousands of government employees not making any money, like
Yeah.
not being paid. We would default on stuff. Like
Yeah.
America would default on stuff every day, so there would be obviously payments would increase
This would
because
crash the
America
world
defaulting.
economy, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would not be good. It would not be good, and this has only happened once in recent memory, a couple of years ago, when they
Mm.
decided to do this, and it didn't last long. The last time they did it, but they were so furious. These MAGA Republicans were so furious, and Matt Gaetz in particular, so furious about this, he decided to pull the lever and get rid of him. And he was absolutely cocky on this. He was sure he was going to win the vote. Like McCartney was going out on Twitter saying, "Come and get me. You want me? Come and get me." And what happens? He loses the vote. So you've now got a situation where these crazies are in charge and they've got a lot of power because there is such a slim majority in the Senate. So how long this lasts, and just as we came on air, Jim Jordan, the guy who's sort of the favorite of people like Matt Gaetz, he lost the first vote by 20. So
That's
currently there
more.
are 20
That's more than
holdouts.
Kevin McCarthy lost by, wasn't
Mm.
it?
So there are currently 20 holdouts in the Republican Party. Now, why are they holding out? Well, there are a lot of Republicans who are what are called purple districts, where the Democrats can give them pretty good runs for their money, and they can't be this extreme, crazy right wing circus that these MAGA Republicans run. They would not be able to win in their district if they ran on
But
that.
but there's enough of those MAGA Republican lunatics to stop any moderate person in the
Yep.
Republican Party, if there is such a thing, becoming speaker. So they're completely trapped, aren't they? Well,
Oh
I
yes.
don't
Well,
see
well,
there
this is
being
it.
any impasse in this, except for maybe the Democrats voting with the Republicans for a moderate speaker.
Well, even in
Um,
then, why would you? Like, why would you
well,
do it?
because you
Why
need
not
to get
let?
you don't want the government to default, do you?
Well, this is it. The budget's already been passed because McCartney did the deal.
Yes.
So the
No, it
budget's already
hasn't.
been passed.
It was just kicked down the road for 45 days. It's going to happen all again in the
Oh yeah,
middle of
but
next
it's
month.
I don't think they will be able to not do it because I think the mess that is going on is entirely the fault of Republicans. If you allow that to continue, that only works in the Democrats' favor. It's like when we had Liz Truss explode. Labour was like rubbing their hands with glee, going, "Ooh, let's just watch the Conservatives eat themselves." And this is what the
Yeah.
Democrats are doing now. This is what their strategy is right now. They're just sitting back and watching. Um, if the Republicans do come to them to try and strike some sort of deal to get a moderate in, um, then the Republicans, the Democrats, shall we say, would have massive, massive leverage over the Republicans at that point. Um, and to be honest, I don't know what kind of deal would come out of that because that is what is probably going on right now. After this first vote, there is probably those 20 Republicans are probably in a room somewhere trying to say, what can we do to get you to vote?
Well, Jez Hunter's in the chat with a fun fact. Government and state workers wouldn't get paid in the event of a government shutdown, but the politicians still do.
Mhm.
Surprise, eh? Ah, shit. Yeah, and then other people are talking about Reagan Leaks saying they've been shut down 14 times in their history. But I remember the US government shutting down a few years ago, but I didn't think that was the same thing. I thought that was a slightly different shutdown, like it wasn't a total government shutdown, i.e.,
Yeah, it was a
people
part. Well,
weren't.
they passed a partial budget so that not everyone would end up not being paid, from what I remember.
But they had to
Um,
close all the national parks and
yeah.
stuff, didn't they? And
So
it's always the Republicans doing
yeah.
this to themselves. The Republicans absolutely hate America. I always remember like the Jack D in the 1990s being interviewed, I think, by an American. I might, if Jackie didn't say this, then I'm very sorry, but this is what I remember. And he said he's been interviewed by an American, and they said, "What's your favorite TV show?" He said, "Oh, Baywatch." And they said, "Oh, is that because you get to watch all these sexy Americans running around in bikinis?" He's like, "No, because once in a while you get to watch an American drown." And like he said it in Jack D style, so it was very droll. He was only joking. But yeah, I've got to admit, like the amount that the Republican Party seem to hate Americans and
Mm.
America is off the charts. I think they hate America more than conservatives hate the UK,
I think
which
it's
is a
just because
lot.
they've just gone so far off the deep end. I really do. I think it's
Uh-huh.
it's what you see now. It's Rishi Sunak is in between a rock and a hard place, and he's got to put his foot down. And it's the same thing in America. No one has put their foot down. No one has even dared to challenge Trump, even though you've got people like Chris Christie on the campaign trail, um, heavily going after him, trying to sort of take him down. He's not really going after Trump. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
pointing out all his flaws, but he's not saying, enough is enough. They're not pointing out all these people, all the punishments that they could do for them in the party, like removing the whip, taking them off committees. They could be doing all this, but they're not. They just choose not to because they don't know what to do with this insane lunatic fringe that has come into the party, and pretty much in this case has taken it over.
Um, have you considered Liz Truss having joined us in America? One more lettuce. Leaf Huntress has got a little bit of interesting little facts here. Imagine if those 20 that voted other voted present instead. So if you vote present, you don't vote for anyone, you just mark that you are present in the room. Hakeem Jeffries would get the speakership with 9 voting present. They're voting again at 6 p.m. Eastern time, which will be about 11 p.m. for us, won't it? That's just, yeah. I don't know what to say. It's kind of crazy. Oh, hang on. Ollie, I can't hear you. Your sound's gone off.
Yeah,
Ollie,
there we go.
oh my
There
God.
we go. We're back.
What
It's the
happened?
it's the ghost in the corner.
I was the ghost. Oh, mate. Oh, that was. I think that's the first technical problem we've had in over 300 episodes of stuff
That wasn't
on
that wasn't
Labour
caused by
Social.
you.
That wasn't my fault. You know, today, halfway through the show this morning with Phil, I couldn't hear him very well in my headphones, so I unplugged my headphones from the front of the PC and plugged them out. Went under the table and plugged them around the back, and it cut the sound to everyone. And everyone's like, right in the chat, can't hear Phil, can't hear Phil. I could still hear him. I was like, yeah, and I look at the chat, I'm like, ah, shit. So yeah, thank you very much to the people in the chat for keeping us honest, keeping us on the straight and narrow. But yeah, that wasn't my fault.
Yeah, but it would be massively embarrassing for the Republicans. Massively embarrassing. The fact that they've got a majority, a very slim majority, and yet they can't elect a speaker.
Yeah, yeah.
And you've got moderate Republicans. I have to
Moderate.
a lot of heavy lifting on the word moderate.
Yeah.
Who are generally out there quite concerned that they are probably going to lose their seats, because one of the things that they are worried about is that if they put Jim Jordan in, who's this again part of the lunatic fringe, he's going to go
Yes.
for a federal abortion ban.
Oh.
That's what they
Fun.
want.
Well,
And
I
it,
could imagine that's what the Democrats want them to do as well,
oh,
because that would
they'd
never
love
get
that.
well, that would never get past the president. He'll just veto it. But also, and it wouldn't get through past Senate. But
Yeah,
also, you could then point the finger at the Republicans and say they want to take away your
yeah,
bodily autonomy, and that would really, really encourage young people, especially young women, to get out there and vote and make sure these bastards are consigned to the
yeah,
dustbin of political history.
yeah. And that's why you've seen female Republicans stand up and suddenly start talking about how important abortion rights are.
Oh, that's interesting.
I wonder why all of a sudden they've
Mm.
started saying that abortion rights are actually pretty important.
Well, this Jim Jordan creep. So the other guy, the guy who's the he's the nominee for the Democrats, is called Hakeem Jeffries, and
Hakeem
that's why I
Jeffries,
was getting Jim Jeffries mixed up with Jim Jordan and Hakeem Jeffries. But yeah, just do your research, Graham. Oh, drop me pen. Oh, fuck no. Anyway, but yeah, I was going to say about
he's
this
got a
guy
lot to
Jim
do with like
Jordan. He
college.
is an absolute horror show. He
Yeah,
is an
he's got a
absolute
lot
horror
to do with
show.
like college wrestling,
Yes.
and allegations that he just basically let a ton of this stuff go.
Yeah.
Um,
So sexual abuse
yeah,
in wrestling, and he could have done something about it, and he didn't, effectively. Or I think he's a bit like the Pepperlaki character in Liverpool, who hangs around outside gyms
yeah,
feeling young men's muscles, and actually had an ASBO put on him saying that he wasn't allowed to hang around outside gyms and feel people's muscles. This is a real person who really exists, and you can Google him. There's a BBC report. There was a BBC documentary about him called "The Man Who Feels Muscles." Anyway, I think that's what Jim Jordan does. If you're watching this, allegedly, Jim, no, I'm not. That's not true. I just
so
said that.
that's
Please
the
don't
other
sue
thing.
me.
That if this guy gets in, that's going to come to surface. That'll be passed. And that's another reason why the quote again heavy lifting here, moderate Republicans are so worried about putting him in. So you get to that point of how long is this going to go on? They've failed the first vote. How many more votes are there going to be? Last time there were 15, and
Yes.
that was the most in American history.
Yes.
Could we see even more than that happen?
I don't know. There's going to be a few of them who are going to say, "Well, I've done my bit now. I've shown the folks back home that I'm willing to stand up against the system," and then they'll just vote for Jim Jordan in the next round. I think the number's going to come down each time, and then eventually, after X many, I don't know if there's going to be any holdouts to the very.
I
Will
think
there?
it'll
I don't know.
depend on the deal because they've got to do a deal in some way to get the rest of these holdouts on board, and it all depends on what deal they cast. But I'm
Mm,
sure we'll find
yeah.
out, like again with McCarthy, what that deal was after all the dust is settled. But put it this way: when we wake up tomorrow morning, I wouldn't be surprised to see that we've gone through a number of rounds of voting,
I think there's
and
only
they've
going to be
come
two
to,
today. I think it's going to be the last one today. It takes ages as well.
yeah,
You know, you would think they
and
would just press a button, but no. They've got to sit there and they call out each name like a bloody register of all 300 odd bloody members,
and they've been over the
and
weekend
they've got to
behind
shout which.
closed doors
Yeah.
voting on this as well. And apparently, from what we've heard from that hasn't even gone well.
Oh shit.
So I fail to see how they get Jim Jordan elected.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really do. It's the
Stephen's
party
saying
itself.
that guy has so many red flags. Lol.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not a nice person. He's a misogynistic pig. Apparently he's been in the House of Representatives now for 20 years, and he's never done anything. He just doesn't do anything. He doesn't turn up. He just occasionally fields some stupid bills that aren't going to get anywhere, like a private member's bill equivalent in
Probably.
America. Um,
It's yeah, it's such a strange situation, but it has a lot of parallels to what's going on here at the moment.
well, with the tail wagging the dog in terms of the lunatics taking over the
Yeah.
asylum, and
I mean,
I mean mixing my metaphors like a
I
mad
I think we're
bastard.
going to have a showdown, a budget of our own here. I
Yes,
really do.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think Phil said it before. I think it was today, or it might have been yesterday. um, you're going to have a budget showdown because if they can convince it, you only need to pass a budget in the UK with a absolute majority. So only half of the Conservative Party
yeah,
actually needs to vote. That should be again heavy lifting quotes doing this should be
yeah.
able to do. I
You
don't
never
think
know.
they'll be able to do that. There's a lot of doubt with how fractured the party
Ooh.
become. And then does this become a vote of confidence? Because that happens a lot of times when you get these
Well,
types of votes.
it's coming up to Sunak's 1 year period of grace
Mm.
until the letters can go in to Graham
Yep.
Brady. Unless
And
is
then
Graham
we'll get
Brady
the
stood
return of
down? He's
trusts.
standing down, isn't he? At the 1922 committee. They can get rid of him, which would be more insanity before an election. But I mean, this Tory government in the UK, I don't know we've done this topic to death, but like they are too busy, like basically wanking around doing nothing on stuff like that doesn't matter, like Brexit and arguing amongst themselves and having parties, and they're just not interested in governing. All they want
Mm.
to do is stand up in front of a bunch of dickheads and get a round of applause. Same with Trump. He's not interested in governing. He spent half his time playing fucking golf. He
Yeah.
didn't like making decisions. Boris Johnson hated making a decision. He'd only make a decision when actually all the other, options are out the window. And that his spads and Dominic Cummings had to pin him down and say, "Will you just say yes?" And he'll go, "Okay, then yes." And then go off and have another game of golf or whatever he does. Do a line of coke off a hooker's boobs. Probably, because that's what Boris Johnson does. He's not a very nice man. Have you watched the Partygate documentary slash dramatization on Channel
No, I
4?
haven't seen it, to be honest. I
Oh,
know that
take,
uh,
take,
Benedict
take.
Cumberbatch is meant to be a really good
No, no, no,
Dominic.
no, not that one. I'm talking about the new one, not the
Oh
Dominic
no, I
Cummings
haven't
one.
seen that one.
No, so it's Channel 4. It came out a couple of weeks ago, and it's damning. So what they do is they have reenactments of the parties that they had in number 10, like the 18 parties or whatever they had. And they cut it with real footage of what the rest of us were doing on those same days. And they have footage of like people at a funeral not being able to hug their mum and being told, no, you have to separate. And then it's cut with like them all jumping up and down and singing ABBA songs and doing karaoke, having sex in a cupboard, doing coke,
One
and
I
doing
do
all.
recommend is State of Chaos by Laura
Ooh,
Kuenssberg.
ooh, I don't like her. I don't like her.
She did a very, very good three-part documentary. Highly,
Oh,
highly recommend it. It's very
okay.
good.
Okay, I've got a question. I've got a question. We've been asked in the chat a bit earlier, and I forgot to ask you at the time. How come I'm wearing a hat and you're not, and you're bowler hat man?
Oh, well, hold on a second.
Oh, hang on. Going off to the dungeon. Get his equipment. That's much better. You look like Max now. He looks like Maximilian when he does his Conservative MP impression with his bowler hat on. Love it. Love it. There is another GOP guy who says about anything he's asked, there's nothing can be done. Nothing, says Paul. Don't forget all those non-Dom, non-UK Tories. Indeed. Well, they got to vote.
Yeah.
That was the bad thing in the last leadership. Well, in all leadership elections for the Tories, if you are an overseas friend of the Conservative Party, you can vote on who our prime minister is. I mean, just these are the same people who go, take back control, don't let the voters tell you what to do. But I tell you what, there's a lot of people in the UK and a lot of people in the US who would rather have Vladimir Putin as our leader than someone who's British or American, respectively. It's John Steed from the Avengers.
I don't have an umbrella, unfortunately, but never mind.
Indeed. Yeah, we're liking this. I think next time I'll get a top hat. Because I think if I go up, I can actually come out the top of the frame. Can I go? Oh no, I can't.
I can.
Jam
Change
it.
it over to my.
Oh, that is beautiful, mate. Everyone needs a fez. Excellent.
A real fez from Morocco as well.
Is it? Is it not a real fez if it's not from Morocco?
Oh no, you can see like.
Didn't Ataturk ban fezzes because he thought they were? That is old school, man. Didn't Ataturk ban fezzes? Am I just making that up? And Peter the Great he taxed beards. I think Peter the Great taxed beards. If you wanted to have a beard, you have to pay a beard tax. True story, I think. I might just make it up. Christine says, you look good as an elderly Peruvian peasant lady. You haven't got an alpaca, though. You need to get an alpaca, mate.
Oh, well, hold on a second.
Oh, God, he's got an alpaca. Don't make him get the alpaca out. Jesus, or an Emma Peel. Indeed. It seems it will be Trump versus Biden in 2024, says Tim. Oh, mate, that is beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful.
Llama wool as well.
So, moving on to a more serious discussion about Israel. No. I did a video about Israel yesterday, and it's had only like 2 people watched it, and one of them was my mum. So I'm not going to make that mistake again. Because you just get you open yourself up to a lot of abuse. You open yourself up to a lot of abuse if you do a video about Israel Palestine. So it's why we're not talking about it.
Yeah, I think eventually we will, but I find the conversation is going to be, I think, about how we move on.
Yes,
from this point, because this conflict has put the peace process back 10 years, if not more.
Yeah.
So I think the real question needs to be, how can we move on forward with a peace project in the Middle East to find good solutions that can bring a lasting peace? And it's not going to be easy, but as I said in my video, 2 of the biggest spoilers to peace in the Middle East are Hamas and a right-wing Israeli government. And you've got both of those.
And you've got both of them running rampant and empowering each other, except that Netanyahu's approval rating's gone through the floor.
Yes, that is actually important to discuss, because obviously Netanyahu was sold when he was, being elected to his position, because he was taken out by a corruption charge. The corruption charge he was involved in was like really serious. He'd been involved in a ton of scandals and cash for money, giving money to friends and family, whatever. But all that didn't matter, because he could run on, I'm a peace guy. I can keep Israel safe because I know security.
Not peace, you keep them safe. Slightly different, but yeah. So that's been
and that failed.
Yeah, vendetta.
This entire Hamas attack has destroyed that reputation. There have been constant protests against him.
So the people on the left hated him anyway, and now the people on the right hate him because they think that he's let them down.
I can't see him lasting. I really can't.
No, I hope not.
Coalition will want him gone.
Yeah.
I think you'll probably have a new election. But
one slither of a silver lining in all this. But yeah, anyway, Vendetta wants to know if you bought the hat from Jeff Minter.
No.
Jeff Minter, the computer programmer who made Llamatron, I think. Was it Llamatron?
This was
Jeff Minter game from the early 90s. for the
This was
effort.
actually
Commodore
from
Amiga.
Peru.
Sorry,
This is actually from Peru.
it is actually from
Yeah,
Peru. That's quite cool. Is it
back
made of
in
Is it
yep,
made
real
of
armor.
llama wool?
50 pence it cost me.
Cost you 50p. God, man, that's a good deal.
Um,
That.
but no, it's my friend was in Peru
Yeah.
in COVID times when COVID broke out. Um, just managed to get a hat for me just before, and yeah,
It keeps on
uh,
disappearing. I don't know if you can see the feedback on your screen,
yeah,
but it because
keeps disappearing in and out. It's a
yeah,
llama
it's
ghost.
the ghost of a dead alpaca. He brought it home from Peru. Indeed.
But no, I think eventually we will end up obviously discussing what is essentially a Israel Hamas
Yeah.
conflict, which is really what it is at the moment. We will eventually discuss that because I think we will at some point.
Lee
But
Funches is making a very good point. Like, we shouldn't really be talking about this with a silly hat on.
yeah,
It is an incredibly serious and horribly disturbing turn of
yeah,
events. And yeah, I don't like the fact that we're all sort of watching this from afar, going, shit, there's nothing we can do. And I don't want to fall into ODism of just seeing stuff happen and just not being, just going, oh dear, and there's nothing we can do. Oh well,
yeah.
never mind.
My advice if you want to do something at the moment is there is the Red Cross, I believe, are running an emergency campaign. So if you do have some spare pennies, donate to the Red Cross and their emergency appeal campaign on that. It's not a lot we can do at the moment, but it will help in some small way for the people
Yeah,
over there. So
I'm going to put the link in the chat there because it is a humanitarian disaster. And it's, yeah. I mean, at least, I don't know, at least in with Ukraine, um, we felt like we could do something about it. We felt like we could help out. We could go over there, drop off supplies. We could pick up refugees. We as individuals could actually do
yeah,
something good
because
over
I think
there
you
with
felt because it was in
this.
Europe,
Yeah,
whereas
yeah, it was
this
close
is in the
enough.
Middle East. It's
Yeah,
although to be honest,
you're gonna
it's
drive through
not that
Syria to
far.
drop off some supplies.
Yeah,
Good luck. Well, you can, and the Egyptian Gaza border crossings bloody closed as well, so you can't even get supplies in that way.
yeah.
All the sea crossings are the ports are all blockaded by Israel. I mean, yeah, it's horrible. My heart goes out to everyone caught up in this horrible conflict, and it's yeah. I, this has been our story, hasn't it? All our lives, there's been this simmering fight in the Middle East. This
It's a
simmering,
circle of violence that has continued, and this is just the latest chapter in it.
yeah, yeah,
It's and
yeah.
it's really difficult to honestly say a solution because I always say the solution's already there. It's the Oslo Accords. Um, the founding of the two-state solution and following that. But even
Well,
then,
I
it's
don't
not
think the
perfect.
two-state solution can ever work.
Mm,
I'm sorry to be such a cynic about it, but yeah, I, I think in 50 years' time, long after I've shuffled off this mortal coil, there might be a place called Israel Palestine where everyone lives in peace in that region, but I just can't see it happening for a very long time. But while they are supposedly two states, and don't forget there was never a second state, whilst it was a state and a territory. And you have people like Hamas running one side and Netanyahu running the other, then it's
and
just
we've
a
got the PLA, the Palestinian Authority,
yeah.
um, and their elected representative over there. And of course, remember Hamas, one election, never another one after that.
Well, they
Um,
had a war. They had a war that they won against Fatah. So yeah. That kind of annoys me. People go, "Oh, they voted them in," and I'm like, "Oh, piss off!" First of all, that was like nearly 20 years ago, and secondly, people voted for Brexit. People voted for the Conservatives. I mean, it's like, oh well, Graham and all his friends deserve to starve to death because they've some people I don't even know voted for the bloody Tories to come in and starve us all or destroy our NHS or whatever the crazy stuff they're doing. One thing I learned very quickly traveling around the world, I've said this a million times, is you can't judge people by the actions of their governments. And when you do, you're lost because most people didn't vote for that.
Yep. So I think that's nicely brought us to a nice, well,
Oh,
little end. Like I
yeah.
say,
I want to just say a big
I hope we've had some fun today with some of the stories we've covered. In
yes.
particular, the Philippines crypto one. Um, I
That's
found that
crazy, isn't it?
quite fun. But
So, you think that money's been spent on nuclear weapons?
yeah,
There was a bit
all that money has absolutely been spent on nuclear
God,
weapons.
crypto,
That money's
man.
been spent on nuclear weapons development. Absolutely,
I
absolutely.
know this was a hacking of a crypto thing, but still, come on. Crypto. Yeah, thank you very much to Michael Warner in the chat. In 50 years, you'll be around 70, Graham. You will likely still be alive. I won't. I'll be a lot older than that, mate. And with the longevity, the life expectancy of the average Brit going down by the day, thanks to the Tories, yeah, I don't even know if I'll make it to 70 the way things are going. Fruitback hat. How about we buy some new land, lots of it, very far apart, and make both groups move there and ban anyone going to Israel Palestine for 100 years. So I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah,
It's the center of three of the major Abrahamic religions of the world, and they all want a piece of it. And there's a ladder
yeah.
that
All the
sits
ladder.
in the holy church of Bethlehem, where Jesus was supposed to be born, and the ladder's not allowed to be moved. And it's sat there for what, 600 years, is it, Ollie? It's been there since the Middle Ages or something?
Yeah, roughly. They've even had debates about helping to replace the ladder because it's that old and made of wood, it's falling to pieces.
It's
I
God's
mean,
will, mate. It's God's will.
when you can't have three separate religious groups discuss about, removing a ladder because it was accidentally left there.
All of whom are Christian, by the way. They're all Christians, just different denominations of Christian. Yeah. And there's Armenian, Egyptian, Coptic, Catholic, I think. And
Yep.
I think there's another one. And they've all got to agree to move the ladder, and then it can be moved. But they never all agree.
Mm.
Maybe, Ollie, in a few years' time, everyone will just wake up and think that religion's a bit silly.
Yeah. We can only hope. We can only hope. But yes.
Imagine all the people. Anyway, indeed. So thank you very much for everyone in the chat there for joining us for this little discussion about world affairs. And we're trying to keep the tone a little bit light because obviously some of the things going on in the world right now are really heavy
And I think,
and
as I
really
said in our
depressing.
first episode, when you are discussing foreign affairs, let's face it, most of it is not good, unfortunately.
No. We didn't really touch on the Australian voice referendum and also
No, there was that. Yes,
the elections in New Zealand, which resulted in the right wing getting in, and Jacinda Ardern's party. She stepped down as PM a few months ago, but her party, Labour, they went down, and the nationalists or whatever they call themselves have got in, and this voice referendum that was lost in Australia, absolutely heartbreaking. But I will say, I didn't think it was going to go ahead. I didn't think it was going to go through. My experience in Australia is there's lots of people who are very racist and they hate the Aboriginals.
I think that you have a good result from it in the fact that you did see, especially Aboriginals, vote overwhelmingly in favour of it.
Yes,
I think that shows their willingness to really sort of engage and still want to engage. And while it may have sort of failed now, I think it does still chart a good course into the future. So I don't think that conversation in Australia is over by a long shot.
No, I don't think it is. But it might be several years now before something similar comes along.
Yep.
But I was going to say, I felt it was a little bit early because I think there is a generation, I'm not going to say which one because I don't want to be called ageist, but there's a certain generation that just seems to not be as nice as the other generations. Is that a diplomatic way of putting it?
Diplomatic way.
I don't want to lose half our viewers who are like, you're saying I'm not nice. I am nice, you bastard. Right, okay. Right. Say I'm nice. Okay, then you're very nice. Anyway, and good news. Suriname went from first past the post to PR system. Oh, there you go. Soon they might have mandatory maternity leave, like they don't have in Papua New Guinea and America. The only countries I think that don't. Okay, right. yeah, I think that's it now. I'm just any more chat? Nope, that's all good. Thank you very much, Ollie.
Cool. No, no
Good
problem.
chatting
Always
with
enjoyed
you.
it. Yep.
Yeah, same again next week. Who'll be
Yep.
about Tuesday
Yep.
night. Okay, join us again for GEOSCOPE next Tuesday at 9 o'clock. I'll be here. Ollie will be here, and in the morning it's Wednesday, so I'll be doing morning brew at 9:30, and dun dun dun. If Rishi Sunak bothers to actually turn up to this one, it'll be Prime Minister's Questions at 12 o'clock, and I'll be doing my little commentary to try and make it a little bit more watchable. I do need to watch my blood pressure on these because I just get so wound up at the fact that the Tories just lie and nobody stops them. Tim Davies in the chat says, "Is it boomers?" No. Anyway, so thanks for joining us. Thanks to Ollie. Thanks to everybody in the chat. And until next time, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.